Okay, so today is Tuesday, January 14th, and today I learned something. It's not really something I learned, but it's kind of just a different way to think about things that really just changed my perspective on something and made me feel kind of stupid. That's kind of what I learned today. I was watching a video, I didn't complete the video, but I saw a video about, like, you know how people do those dopamine detoxes, right? And they'll delete all of the social media and remove all dopamine things for an extended period of time. And I was just thinking, the fact that the world has come to a place where you need to detox yourself from this device and from this social media, which as an idea seems pretty harmless, right? People are just sharing their thoughts, sharing their fits, sharing whatever online, but then we get so addicted to it. And I was thinking 20 years ago, when people didn't have phones and the internet wasn't as developed, if you told people that this is what it's come to, people are addicted to these pocketable devices and they just keep feeding themselves get in these dopamine holes, and we're just scrolling and scrolling for hours and hours, and we have to do these detoxes to try to get us out of that, but then eventually we just go back to it, right? They would be flabbergasted, bamboozled, if you will. It's just kind of sad that's just what life has come to, at least where I live, at least in America, but I think around the majority of the world, as far as I know. It's just crazy that that's what it's come to, because you would think that's super unhealthy. Whenever we talk about people being addicted to things, we're people are trying to quit and it's really bad for you or whatever, but we are addicted to these devices, we're addicted to these feeds, but it's not as big a deal for people. I mean, it is a big deal because at least people are trying, right? We're trying to do these detoxes. We're trying to quit, in a way, our addiction. It's just a different way to think about scrolling and a different way to think about social media and our addiction to it, because it's, instead of just a time waster, it's an actual addiction. I think there's a few, I forget what they are, but I think there's 3 or 4 characteristics of that all addictions have, and I'm pretty sure that social media, phone usage kind of thing falls into those. And it's just super sad. It was just a different way to think about it, and it's just kind of sad that that's kind of that's what we're addicted to now. Even people my age, who I'm still in high school, and yet I have this addiction, right? And although I do think it could be a lot worse, I don't want to keep thinking about it like an addiction, because I think that'll just kind of make it worse than it needs to be, right? But technically it feels like an addiction, even though it might not be really a really bad one. There's still the existence of one, right? So I was kind of thinking about if we think about this scrolling or being addicted to your phones kind of thing, if we think about that how we would think about any other addiction, right? What are some things that we know? Well, we know that it's very hard to just go cold turkey and to just stop, to just quit altogether. So you kind of have to make it gradual, as with a lot of things, waking up early. That's something, it's really hard to go from waking up at 9 a.m. to waking up at 6 a.m., right? You have to get that gradual increase in, or I guess not increase, that gradual, what is the word, moving back the time, right, that you wake up. So that's one thing that we know about just other addictions. You can't just go cold turkey. You have to slowly, over time, gradually remove it from your life, right? So if we were trying to apply that to this, yes, doing these dopamine detoxes is good for you, but I don't think that in the long term they're going to completely change your habits, right? Because a lot of times we kind of need these social media apps, and we kind of need these feeds to keep up with friends and family, and to if you create content like I do, I have to do this because I'm creating content and that's what I'm doing right now. And so I, in a way, have to keep those apps. So I do think that there is a need for them, and there is a purpose for them, and there is a reason why we have them in the first place. But I do think a lot of them are also just time wasters, and there's no true purpose to them. And those are the ones that we can slowly remove from our life, right? One at a time. One other thing about being addicted to our phones is that when we remove something out of our life, it has to be replaced by something else. When we are searching for that dopamine hole, when we're procrastinating something, we have this discomfort and we want to get into that comfortable position where we're kind of just wasting our time away and we don't have to think about anything. Though that often leads to scrolling on social media or something like that. So if we remove that social media, then that time is going to be spent doing something else, and probably not something else that's good for you, right? So as you're trying to get rid of this addiction, not only are you trying to go through it slowly, one app at a time, where you kind of, as you keep removing these apps, as you keep removing these inputs, you kind of keep switching to other ones, because your brain is trying to find that place for relaxation and like just find that dopamine home. But I think the key is to, instead of replacing it with just another app, right, replace it with good dopamine, because there is good dopamine, right? Replace it with going on a walk outside. That's kind of like the best dopamine you could ever get from going on a walk. Or read a book, right? You get that, there's so many good books out there, fiction and nonfiction, that you can get so much value out of. So instead of scrolling, read a book. Instead of scrolling, work on that project you've always wanted to work on. Instead of scrolling, do that thing that you've been procrastinating on. Because you're probably, time-wise, like, if we look at this objectively, no feelings, like, if we're just robots, if you spend 2 hours scrolling, you could have gotten that thing that you've been procrastinating done. You could have got that thing done in 2 hours, right? So objectively, it's the same amount of time, you're just spending it differently. So don't just, if you're trying to kind of quit your addiction of social media and like being on your phone all the time, it has to be slow. You have to be slowly, gradually removing it from your life, but not just removing it from your life, but replacing it with something that's good. Not just replacing it with another dopamine hole, but replacing it with something that's actually good for you, like reading or going on a walk outside, exercising, like stop procrastinating on that thing you've been procrastinating on. I think that those are two very important things that you can do as you're trying to quit this addiction. And I do it in air quotes because it feels kind of insensitive to people who have like actual addictions. So it feels kind of insensitive, or not, I don't know if insensitive is the word, but it just feels like it's not as big a deal. And I don't think it is, but even though it might not be high on like the how bad it is scale, it's definitely still there, right? It's still in existence. And it's something that a lot of people struggle with. Like a lot of people. I would probably say 8 out of 10, if not 9 out of 10 people struggle with this, right? So making it gradual, not just going cold turkey, and replacing it with something that's good, right? One time I replaced the exact spot of where I kept like the app on my phone, like in the folder or whatever. I replaced the exact spot of that with, I think it was the Notes app. So every time I had the urge and I just had the muscle memory to go to that spot, I would open the Notes app and I would just like write down my thoughts instead of scrolling, right? I think that's a great way of doing it, because you're replacing it in a good way, and you're making it a little bit effortless. I think also like adding shortcuts whenever you open a certain app, redirect it to open another app, or redirect it to do something else, or to give you a reminder, do you actually want to be on this app, right? Those kinds of things are so useful because it helps you be more self-aware. Like earlier today, I was just like, oh wow, I haven't scrolled today. And then 10 minutes later, I was like scrolling. I was like, whoa, what is happening? I didn't even realize that I was doing this, right? So it can be very like mindless. So having like, building those shortcuts, having those specialized apps that will redirect you or like stop your flow and be like, do you actually want to open this app? I think those kinds of things are so useful because it just breaks that mindless like muscle memory kind of thing, right? And then like I said, replacing it with something that's better. So giving yourself that reminder to, instead of scrolling, let's, do that thing that we've been procrastinating on. Or even when you have free time, right? A lot of times I'll scroll and I will not feel guilty about it in my free time, but then afterwards I'm like, I could have spent this free time working on my YouTube or working on whatever. So I think just overall it's bad. Like I don't think I get any benefits from scrolling. And the same is probably true for most of you, no matter how hard you try to make excuses and justify it to yourself, right? So overall it's just a bad thing, so we should be trying to remove it from our lives, right? If it's not good, then remove it. It's just very bad in a lot of ways and good in no ways. I see no good benefit of scrolling. Just doom scrolling, brain rotting, the endless scroll, other than the occasional laugh, right? The occasional smile, the occasional, the occasional dopamine that you get from each video, which is ultimately unhealthy. So yeah, those are just some thoughts that I had about scrolling and how it's basically an addiction, and how we can apply these things that we know are true about other addictions, ones that are maybe more serious or intense, and apply them to this addiction that we all have. Well, most of us have, right? No matter at what degree you have it at, it's still there, right? So just applying don't go cold turkey, slowly remove it from your lifestyle, and make sure you're replacing it with something else that's actually good for you. So yeah, that's what I learned today. That's what I was thinking about today. If you found this video helpful, then definitely give it a like. If you have any thoughts, then I'd love to hear them in the comments down below. I have a Patreon completely free. You can join in the link in the description. I'm going to have weekly discussion posts about just things I've been thinking about, and then a community chat where you can share what you guys learned today, which I think is super cool. So again, link in the description. I'm talking too fast. Yeah, thank you so much for watching. Okay, so yesterday I talked about how I want to do a verse of the day for every single day. So let me find. So today's verse of the day is James 4:17. And here it says, "So whoever knows the right thing to do and fails to do it, for him it is sin." Very simple, very straightforward. It's just a good reminder, and it's a good way to understand every single one of your actions, and to just keep that verse in mind throughout your day. So that's the verse of the day today. Yeah, thank you so much for watching. This video is specifically recommended for you, so if you find that interesting, then definitely click on it. You can subscribe in that corner, and if you subscribe, I will see you in tomorrow's video. Bye.